Lieutenants, Leonard Cardinal and Will Crespo joining us. And we're talking, of course, about North Las Vegas and the situation that Will is in, where he's got 2 stents, heart issues, and the city of North Las Vegas, even though he's retired, will not pay for his health issues. I want to ask you guys this. I have to, because both of you, what do you guys make of Joe Lombardo? Because I hear some good things, I hear some bad things, and you guys both seem to be pretty honest people. My feelings on Joe Lombardo, I'm a big Kevin fan, Kevin McMahill. I think he's going to be a good sheriff. I think he's a decent man. I'm not a big fan of Joe Lombardo. And the reason why I'm not a big fan is I don't think he's very transparent. I think he's out for himself. I think he doesn't like anybody that challenges him on anything. It's his way or the highway. And I've talked to some people that love him, some people that hate him. Maybe hate's a strong word, but what are your thoughts on Joe Lombardo?
I've met him a couple times. I was a union president for several years for sergeants and lieutenants, so I did have occasion to speak to him. And he basically, it was around 2015 when the Republicans took over the Senate, I think maybe, and the Assembly, and they changed a bunch of laws on collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is important to us. And so he asked me if we supported the changes, which basically watered it down, and I told him I did not. But he made it clear that his position was that he was glad that collective bargaining was going to be.
And you disagreed with him.
I did.
Yeah. Will, what are your thoughts?
Early in my career, we had the opportunity to work together, so I only knew him more like on officer level. I never really got to interact with him later on. 2 different departments, obviously. He's the sheriff of Metro, and
Sure.
we have our own chief. So
How would you grade him? I mean, do you think he was a decent sheriff or
I think he was a decent sheriff.
decent? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
Would you agree? Decent?
Well, he disbanded several specialized units, and I think that people don't understand how important they are, because not everybody can be a patrol officer. And there were some special units he disbanded, and I think he got some pushback for that. But I think people have to remember that he admittedly is a conservative Republican.
But he's not an
who
extremist,
got support
right?
from Trump.
He's not. I wouldn't call him an extremist.
Well, you can't
right?
be an extremist as a sheriff.
Well, as a politician, him running for governor, while I disagree with a lot of what he stands for, he's not an election denier. That's a good start. And while he did accept the endorsement of Donald Trump, who I am not a fan of, I never saw him as an election denier and a Kerry Lake or one of these, or a Jim Marchant or one of these people that is an extremist. And that's why I say, while I don't like him personally, I don't think he was a great sheriff. I don't think the sky's falling as governor. I think he'll be fine. Just like, kind of similar to my feelings on Sisolak. I know a lot of people dislike Sisolak. Sisolak conceded. I give him a lot of credit for that. He called Lombardo. You know, I thought Sisolak was okay.
We like Steve Sisolak. He's always been good.
I think he's a decent man. Isn't he a decent man?
And then Lombardo chose Kekeffer as his chief of staff. And if you know Ben at all, he's a pretty fair guy.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat, right? I mean, Sisolak, he did something, and I give him a lot of credit for. He conceded. Even when all the votes hadn't been counted, he called Lombardo and he had a conversation with him. Hey, whatever I can do to help you. We need more decency in our. I think you would agree when it comes to politics, and I think Sisolak is a decent man, and I'm rooting for Lombardo. I hope he does a good job.
Me too.
And I think Kevin McMahill is going to be a very good sheriff. I know Kevin pretty well, and I think he'll do okay. All right, let's talk to you. I want to talk to you guys about gun control. You know, we have more gun violence in this country than anywhere else, and I hear the word mentally ill, and I'm sure we all could do a better job in dealing with people who are mentally ill, but there's mentally ill people all over the world. What are your thoughts on AR-15s and assault weapons? My opinion is very simple. I think people like you, those who are in law enforcement, our brave men and women in uniform, should be allowed to use any of those weapons. I don't believe assault weapons should be allowed in the general public. So that would be my first question. And my second question is, do you think an 18-year-old should be able to walk into the day he turns 18 and buy as much ammunition and as many AR-15s as they want? Let's start there. I know that's kind of a lot.
You want me to start?
Sure. Well, whatever. Go ahead.
AR-15s are probably not going anywhere for a while. There's about 340 million guns in America. There's only 330 million people. So we're deep into guns. What my opinion is, why would you mind to have a background check? Why would anybody mind if it's the legal way to do it? Because criminals get guns through other means. The second thing is, what I don't understand, if I were a legislator, which I'm not, and I've never been, but I would go after the low-hanging fruit. Why don't you go after the AK-47s. You know, that to us, to cops, that's a bad guy gun.
Right.
There's nobody walking around.
You don't need that for hunting.
And right.
Right.
And the SKS, and it shoots a 7.62 round, which can probably go through a vest. Why not go after 100-round magazines first? I just went to the store last week, and they got 100-round, 250-round magazines.
I'm with you. Why won't that happen?
But that's low-hanging fruit.
Agreed.
You know, they got rid of the bump stock. Now the bump stock's illegal.
Right.
But now they have some other kind of automatic
right.
charging. Yeah. So well, my thing is, if you're going to change things, I don't mind a national background check for everybody, because if you're a law-abiding citizen, you should be able to get your guns. 18-year-olds, the same thing that an 18-year-old thinks is important when they're 18 is not what they're going to think is important when they're 30.
Should the age be raised from 18 to 21?
It should be. I would make it 21, because at 21 you can still buy it. Someone can buy it for you. In this state, you can buy it at 21 and you can gift it to an 18-year-old.
You sound too reasonable. Get out of my studio. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I'm certain, like that. What you just said is all very, very reasonable, and I agree with everything you said. Why is it? And you're a conservative. Is that fair?
I'm actually registered as a Dem, but
you are. Okay.
I have parts of the Republican philosophy I believe in.
Fair enough.
And part of the Dem, the Dem is the union president in me,
Understood. So why is it that Republicans and Democrats can't get together? There are a lot of Republicans that would disagree with a lot of what you just said, which I find to be repulsive, because I think everything you just said makes complete sense. It's fair. But they can't get anything done.
Why not go after the low-hanging fruit that everybody thinks we should?
You know why I think a lot of Republicans won't do any of that? Because they're the back pocket of the NRA.
Well, what they say,
want the A+ rating.
What they say a lot is that we agree with you, but if we give one thing, you know how they are.
Stupid.
If we give up one gun or one right, it's never going to stop.
That's
and they
not
believe
true.
that.
Yeah, and that's not true. I think that's an excuse for them saying we don't want to do anything about it because we want an A+ rating from the NRA. Now, there are some Republicans that agree with you, but the overwhelming majority of them don't. I haven't talked to one Democrat that would disagree with anything that you just said. Would you agree with what he said?
Yes.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
So when you look at these mass shootings, and I hate to go back to October 1, but it's like, we had it in our backyard, the biggest mass shooting in the history of this country. We just had this shooting at that nightclub in Colorado, I believe, right, where people were shot just because they were gay. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. And it seems like most of the time it's the same description. And I hate to use color on this, but it's usually a white, young male that is purchasing these weapons, usually legally, and going in there and trying to kill as many people as possible. Same thing with all these school shootings, right? It's usually this. Why is that? Why is that?
They're always flagged, but not in a real sense. They look up their Facebook after the fact. They look at their Instagram after the fact. And sometimes the FBI had their eye on them. Sometimes local police kind of knew who they were. But then there's the question of mental illness, because that's where this is headed, I assume. But who's going to decide what's mentally ill, what's not? That's the problem. Who's going to decide at what point they're too mentally ill to own weapons and red flag them? And now you're taking away civil rights. But that, in my mind, it hasn't been determined where that line is. Yes, he's mentally ill. Is he mentally ill enough to not give him a weapon? And who decides that?
An argument I hear, and I go back to the shooting in that black church, and the shooter, this was several years back, Dylan, I believe his name was. I don't even want to use their names. But he goes in there and he kills all these innocent black people, right? Horrible hate crime. And then he gets into the police car, and within 30 minutes, an officer asks him, "Are you hungry? Do you want something to eat?" And they buy him Burger King. The argument I hear from a lot of black people is that shooter probably would have been dead. And you look at Kyle Rittenhouse, who, I understand he's not a murderer. I believe that was self-defense. I think the jury made the right decision. But he's got his hands in the air and he just shot a couple people, and nobody arrests him at the time. The argument I hear from black people is, in those types of situations, usually that black person does not get out of that situation alive, yet you see some of these white shooters that are treated differently. Is that fair to say that, or do you disagree with that?
No, it's fair to say that. I think even to go back to my situation, and it's tough because when you start assuming that it could be race also related,
right, then
you get accused of using the race card. And it's probably usually a racist that's telling you that.
Yeah.
But they won't admit it. They'll covert.
Yeah.
So they'll try to turn the tables on you. Instead of trying to see it from your eyes or your prism, they'll try to just turn the table and say, here you go, here you are using a race card again. But we're the ones suffering. And like in my situation, I've never seen anyone that looks like me, you know, that has my skin color, that's been given these benefits in North Las Vegas. I've never seen
and
it.
Will's being polite.
But if I say that, now I'm using the race card. I wasn't going to bring
I don't
this
think
up.
you are. I
until
think that's very fair.
you know,
what
but,
you're saying.
And you know what's
very
the sad
fair.
part is when people in my family or friends that are minorities, Black, Hispanic, you name it, they say, "Of course you're not going to get it. Your last
So
name is Crespo."
So and you
So
believe
what
if
does
you
that
were
tell
white,
you?
so you're saying if you were white, that there's a good chance that you would maybe have these benefits and
I
you'd be
agree.
treated differently. Well, that's horrible. That's reprehensible. That's terrible. And obviously, it's a very difficult thing to prove. But I don't doubt what you are saying, and I'm with you on that. What would you say? You know, I've been in the car with people who are black that are driving. Good friends of mine, by the way, who are in the media here, who have been pulled over, and they've been pulled over, in my opinion, because of the color of their skin. It's nonsense. And I've never been pulled over because of the color of my skin. I've been pulled over because maybe I was speeding or maybe a taillight is out. And cops, for the most part, have always treated me with respect. I'm also very respectful to them. But what I try to do is I try to listen to people that don't look like me, that have that have a different upbringing. I try to listen and learn from them. Do you agree with me when I say, and do you agree with black people in America, that there are times that if you are black, there have been at least a couple times in their life where they have been pulled over, they say, because of the color of their skin? Do you believe that as officers of 50 years combined experience? Do you believe that?
I'm sure we have. Yes, I believe that. Definitely.
do?
Oh yeah. Oh
Do
yeah.
you?
Yes.
I believe that 100%. And what Will is not saying is he has contacted the EEOC. But what you don't know is that if you check the record, City of North Las Vegas, multiple discrimination minority complaints, multiple complaints in district court, multiple complaints in EEOC, multiple complaints in HR. And if anybody wants to come on the show and challenge me on that, I've talked to each and every one of those people. Not all of them. But I've talked to the people who have filed those lawsuits, and they've been tied up for, I don't even know how many years, just tied up in the system.
Here's the problem, right? And I appreciate both of you, your honesty when it comes to this. The problem, in my opinion, is there are a lot of current officers that will not admit what you just said. They won't admit that because the first step, just like if you're a drug addict, you got to admit there's a problem. I have a problem. There is a problem. And I am not saying all these officers are racist. I would never make that statement, right? But when you know that there's a problem and you both agree there's a problem, you're not going to find a solution if these officers don't admit to the problem. Yes, I do believe that inherently in this country there is systemic racism out there. Do you agree with me on that? That while I don't believe every officer is racist.
Well, let me ask you a question. I was a police lieutenant for several years.
Yep.
I've never been accused of racism in 25 years. And no one on any of my squads as a sergeant or lieutenant was ever accused of racism. Now, is that a reflection on them? Yes, but is it a reflection on me because they knew my reputation? They knew I would not tolerate that?
Absolutely.
They knew I wouldn't tolerate
Because
that.
you are a responsible officer who would not tolerate that. Do you believe, as I do, that there are people out there in powerful positions in law enforcement that are not like you? They do tolerate that stuff, and maybe sometimes they even condone it behind closed
And when
doors.
it goes to the top, the organization's culture, if you believe this, comes from their leadership.
Right.
So if the people at the top, through a wink, wink, nod, nod, system, let the majority of the people know they can do whatever they want, then you have to go after the administration and hold them accountable. And in America, that's not going to happen, especially not going to happen in Nevada.
What do you say to an African American in this country that would tell you, I don't trust those cops? They're all bad and they're after me because of the color of my skin. How do you talk to somebody like that, and what do you say to them?
I had the opportunity to do that, obviously, over my 25-year career because North Las Vegas is the most diverse city in Nevada. And I had the opportunity, obviously, to work in the city and speak with the community, attend community events, and really get to know the community over my years.
Isn't that key? Right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
I heard about, the whole Ferguson situation was awful because I believe Michael Brown was the criminal there, and he's the one who charged the officer, and that officer was treated unfairly. There's
And
no
I can
question
tell you
about
right
that,
now, I
right?
felt a lot of love from everyone in the city of North Las Vegas,
That's
no matter
nice to
what
hear.
race, black, Hispanic, white.
That's nice to
I
hear.
felt
focused
a
on-
lot of love. The black community loved me just like I love them.
They do.
And they do to this day.
He has a very good
nice to hear.
reputation.
The Hispanic community loved me, because I'm Puerto Rican, I speak Spanish. They love me too, and I would go to their establishment, their business establishment,
Do we
even off duty.
We need
even
more
off duty.
minorities as police officers. Is that
Oh,
fair
we
to
definitely
say?
do. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely.
We
fair
need
to
more
say.
officers, but we need more
officers,
minorities
but
too.
yes.
Female officers. I hear chauvinistic pigs out there that make the statements, "Oh, females shouldn't be cops." I would never make a statement like that. What are your thoughts on female officers?
They do a great job. They're capable of doing the job just as well as we are.
Do you
And I have
believe?
no problem with them.
Do you believe that somebody, unlike you guys, somebody that is way out of shape? Because you see some officers out there that are way out of shape, and I say, boy, I don't want that guy trying to run down a criminal. We make a joke here and there, but like, do you think that there should be a standard, a physical standard? There are some standards, I understood, but I see some officers out there that are not in very good shape. I want officers, tell me if you agree with this. I want officers to be paid more, but in return, I believe an officer should have a college education. What do you think about that?
I disagree.
You disagree? Tell me why.
I disagree 100%.
Tell me why.
Some of the smartest people in our country's history didn't have a college education, for
True.
one.
True.
Two, some of the smartest people I ever met in the police department didn't have a college education. Then I could say the opposite. Some of the not so smart people, I won't go too far.
No, you're right.
Had college education and didn't mean anything. I
I'll
have
say
some
it.
college. I have some
That's fair.
college. I don't have a degree.
Maybe you'll switch my mind on that.
Yeah.
I'll say
I don't
it's-
have a degree.
well, what about city management?
Yeah.
They
Well,
have more education combined than everybody in the police force combined,
Yeah.
including master's degrees and PhDs. And I have asked them when I was union president. I asked them. I said, if you think this job's so easy, why don't you jump in the car? I won't let anybody get hurt, but you can make the decisions all night. When there's a shooting in the house and a kid comes running out with blood on him, and we get to the door and there's search and seizure issues, and there's policy and procedure and laws and federal laws, I said, I'll sit in the car and you make the decision. Whether or not we do something, and
I wouldn't
remember,
wanna-
you
I
have
wouldn't wanna do that.
and you have to live with it. If your officer or somebody gets killed,
Right.
you have to live with your decision.
That's fair.
And so, I think it's what I said before. I think you have to be cut out for it, educated or not. I think education helps,
doesn't hurt.
with
Let me
your
ask
work
you-
ethic and your character. But as far as being a better cop, no.
That's a very fair argument.
Let me ask you this. Would you prefer someone with a 4-year degree or someone with 4 years of military experience?
4 years of military
Do you
experience.
see what I'm getting
Yes,
at?
absolutely.
So,
There's no
so
question.
which one, over,
If
I have
you're
4
gonna-
years of
if you're
military.
If you're going to be a police officer, you probably don't need to go to art history classes. I'd
There
rather
you
you
go.
know how to use a weapon and use it well. But I talk about
I
physical.
was a cop in the Air Force.
Right.
So
You served.
4 years before
Right. Thank
that,
you
I
for
was
your
actually,
service.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was 4 years in the Air Force and I was a police officer. But does that make me better or lesser? I don't know. But
I think it makes you a better cop.
I don't.
It doesn't matter
it
to the
doesn't-
city.
To me, yeah.
Doesn't matter to the city because military veteran or not, they're still marginalizing him. They're still ignoring him. They're still lying to him.
That's horrible. What is the starting pay for a cop these days in Las Vegas? Like about?
Last I heard, North Las Vegas was around 55,000.
I mean, that's not a ton of
56,
money.
57
Is that enough
maybe.
money for a single person to take care of themselves? Yes. I do believe police officers deserve more money. I really genuinely believe that. If you're a good cop like you guys, I mean, that's not a lot of money.
Well,
No, it
they're
isn't. It
complaining that they
No,
can't
no, it
hire
isn't.
anybody, but other cities are giving bonuses and moving bonuses, and if you live in their city, another bonus, education bonus, and they just refuse to spend the money.
You know, and I think of Shea Michelonis, and I went to a few events raising money for his family. It's just a horror. Here's a young guy, right? Good-looking guy, young guy, just on the force recently, and his life is basically, I hate to say it like this, but it's basically over. He could never walk again. He can't communicate. I mean, what you guys have to go through on a daily basis, it's just $55,000 a year to me is not enough. I mean, listen, I say the same thing. Teachers aren't risking their lives, but about educating, I say make the same argument with teachers and EMT workers who are not paid a lot of money. You
Well,
know,
the
I mean,
multiple-
across the board, firefighters.
With the multiple times that I've been shot at, that I could have been killed, it was just by the grace of God that the bullet didn't hit me.
Yeah, I've been shot at.
I was shot. My car got shot up during the Rodney King riots while I'm in it and driving down certain streets. And
Where was that? Here?
on the west side? Yes.
Really?
During the
So
Rodney King
somebody
riots.
just took out a gun and started shooting at you?
Yeah, they were shooting at us,
Oh,
and
my
my car
God.
got shot up. And then there were times when one time I was on a traffic stop, and a car drove by, and once it got by me, one of the people in the car stood up through the sunroof and started shooting at me.
Oh, my God.
So I couldn't chase him because I had to make sure no one in the car that I had stopped on a traffic stop.
And at that
got
time,
hit.
how much money are you getting paid? Because I would
Well, back
imagine it's
then I was
gone up
on-
a little bit
Back
since
then,
then, right?
I was only making maybe 30,000.
Yeah, we started at about 30. I've been shot at.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
I was
that's
on
a
Westlake
joke.
And it
Mead
is a
and-
joke that they start so low now.
You're
too.
getting shot at,
They
risking
all-
your life every day, and you're getting paid $15 an hour, basically.
Exactly.
That is a joke. There are 16-year-olds that are getting paid that money for working at fast food restaurants in some places. I mean, listen, things need to change in this country, and it's not going to happen overnight, but people need to speak out about it. Let me ask you both this question, because we're almost out of time here. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people, the general public, have about law enforcement? And what is it that you would want to tell citizens here, whether it be in Las Vegas or across the country, about what you guys have sacrificed and what you have done in your careers? Either of you start. Yeah, either.
I want them to know what they already know. The greater majority of America actually likes their police. They actually support their men and women, and they already know that the majority of them are good people trying their best to protect people. So when you see them, go up and say thank you. I can barely go to a restaurant, you know, an Applebee's or an Olive Garden. Every time we sat down, people would come up to us and thank us on the way out.
That's so nice, and that must mean a lot to you.
Well, you know, it shows that at least somebody out there doesn't have that hatred, and that they should try to understand that spending 25 years, it'd be hard to name something that I haven't seen. And like I said, I've pulled kids out of pool. I've done CPR on babies.
How many lives do you think
didn't
you've
make
saved in both of your careers?
That I
It's
actually
not-
saved, that I actually had some impact, at least 3 to 5, right on
Wow,
there.
that's unbelievable.
At
I
least 3 to
can't-
5.
I-
That
I-
actually was
That's
there,
unbelievable.
And if I wasn't there, I believe they would not have made it.
That
at
is
least 3 to 5. that I can
unbelievable.
think of right
That
now.
is why I use the term hero, as I would for our brave men and women in uniform. I mean, what you guys do, it's heroic what you guys do every day. We all have our bad days, right?
Yes.
Some days you're going to be more snippy than others, but you know, that's being a
That's being
human
human,
being.
right.
I'll ask you the same question that he just answered eloquently. Like, what do you think is the biggest misconception?
I think the biggest misconception that a lot of people have, especially in the lower income areas, that most police officers came up with a silver spoon in their mouth. And like myself, I was
Not
raised
me.
right, and we weren't, and you know, I was raised in the projects actually of New Jersey, and by joining the Air Force and having a great mother, obviously, who instilled in me to be a good person and do the right thing and not to steal, the basic stuff that are the foundation of what I believe makes a good adult. With those things in mind, and joining the Air Force, which I have nothing but great things to say about joining the military, because it helped me, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for being in the military, being in the Air Force. And I noticed that when I would talk to people in the community, and I would bring up that, no, I had it hard too. You know, initially they don't believe it, but they don't expect you to say that. So those are some of the misconceptions. But a lot of officers that are out there working hard, they had it pretty rough too coming up, but they didn't use that as an excuse to fail.
Right. Of
And
course.
that's why we try to instill in people that maybe have it tough, harder than most, because there are a lot of people out there like that.
If you were dealt a tough hand, you got to play the hand.
Absolutely.
We were both born in Newark, New Jersey, and,
Right.
and both of us have basically the same conditions. But I want people to try not to be so negative, especially the minority communities and the people that are afraid of the police. You know, try and believe that they're still good people, and
agree.
give them a chance when you talk to them. Just like we have to give you a chance. Give them a chance. Let them see what they're there for. See what kind of person it is.
Right.
Don't automatically assume and let it escalate without even talking to the person.
And while it's important to call out bad policing, I think part of the responsibility of being in the media is also calling out good policing, which I also try to do. You know, we hear about all these horrible situations, but yet we don't talk about people like yourselves who save lives every day, and I try to do that. Well, listen, I hope you get the right judgment here, and I hope eventually North Las Vegas has to pay you for the health issues that you have. Clearly you deserve it. Clearly both of you are good men who serve this community honorably as in law enforcement, and it's people like you that I want to be taken care of. I say the same thing about our brave men and women in uniform who risked their life for this country, and you served. So I appreciate both of you being here. I appreciate your candidness. I think more conversations like this need to happen.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. And you guys are welcome back. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know, please. And you guys are welcome back anytime. I appreciate it. That is former retired North Las Vegas Police Lieutenants Will Crespo and Leonard Cardinale. We'll continue to monitor this story, and I appreciate both of these brave men coming in studio and talking to me about these very important issues. Okay, it's always weird to make the transition from these so important issues to a UNLV football coach, but Mark Anderson from the Associated Press will be joining us next. UNLV now on the search for a new head coach at UNLV. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services